She walked away from the warm man. She walked toward the one who turned his back. Not because he was cruel, not because he was better, but because he was elsewhere. And elsewhere, to a woman, is the only direction worth following. Why? Because of a simple law that governs all attraction. The man who gives everything becomes furniture in her life. He is the chair she sits on without thinking, the background noise of her day. But the man who withholds, who stands just out of reach, who does not orbit her beauty like a planet begging for light, that man becomes a fever in her blood. He does not comfort her, he disturbs her, and disturbance is what she calls desire. So let's talk about why she actually chases. Not the fantasy version, not the romance novel version. The brutal mechanical truth of her hunger. Think about the last time she checked her phone at 2 a.m. Not because you texted, because you didn't. The man who always texted, she forgot his name. The man who vanished without explanation, she still tastes his silence, and she will never taste anything sweeter. A woman uses a man as a mirror. She looks into his reactions and sees herself reflected back. The nice guy fails because he reflects her too easily. He agrees when she wants friction. He explains when she wants mystery. He becomes predictable. But the man who withdraws stops being a mirror. He becomes a question mark. And a question mark cannot be ignored. It lives in her mind like a splinter. She reaches for glass and finds void. That void forces her to project. She paints you in colors you never wore. She imagines depths you never claimed. And in that imagination, you become more real than any man who confessed his heart. When you deny her the validation she feeds on, she does not simply wait for more. She generates her own emotions to fill the gap. She creates intensity where none exists. She romanticizes your silence because she cannot read it. And what she cannot read, she cannot dismiss. Your lack of reaction is not emptiness to her. It is sovereign fullness. It is the mark of a man so complete within himself that he does not need her approval to exist. That fullness terrifies her, because it means you are beyond her reach. And what is beyond her reach, she must chase. Not to possess, but to prove she still has power. To prove the scream inside her, the one that whispers she is not enough, is a lie. But here is where most men failed. They learn about silence and wield it as a tactic. The tactic player checks his phone waiting for her response. He measures her anxiety like a scientist. He plays games with his absence. But the sovereign man? He forgets her phone exists. He is not checking for her response. He is building something. His attention is not a gift he is withholding. It is a resource he is spending elsewhere, on his work, his purpose, his peace. The void he creates is not strategic, it is natural. It is the byproduct of a man too full to leak. Most men perform. They engage in the endless dance of texting, explaining, and earning. They check in to show they care. They clarify to avoid misunderstanding. They apologize to keep the peace. And in every performance, they hand her the frame. They make her the audience. They make themselves the clown juggling for her amusement. But the king does not juggle. The king watches. He does not react to her moods. He does not adjust to her tests. He does not explain himself when she demands answers. Because explanation destroys mystery. The moment you tell her why, you give her control. You hand her the map to your interior. And what is mapped is no longer sacred. What is explained is no longer powerful. There is a difference between waiting and withdrawing. Waiting is passive hope. It is the man who steps back and watches his phone, praying she will text, calculating her response time, suffering in the gap. He is still orbiting. He has simply moved to a farther ring. But withdrawing is active removal of your energy. It is the man who steps back and forgets her, not because he is angry, not because he is hurt, but because he has moved on. His gravity belongs to himself, and that ownership, that refusal to orbit her beauty, breaks her reality. When you stop revolving around her, she must reconsider the center. If you are not chasing, who is? If you are not watching, who is being watched? The power shifts without a word being spoken. She feels it before she understands it. And that feeling, that sudden vertigo of being the pursuer instead of the pursued, awakens something primal in her. Desire, not the comfortable kind, the desperate kind. Imagine the scene. You were always there. Your good morning texts arrived before her coffee cooled. Your attention was her oxygen. And then one day, nothing. She checks her phone. Silence. She checks again. Silence. And in that silence, she begins to suffocate. Not from loss, from the terrifying realization that she can survive without you. And worse, that you never needed her to survive at all. Now let's talk about what happens in her mind when the silence hits. At first, there is confusion. You were there. Now you are not. Warm, then cold. Reaching, then still. She explains it away. He's busy. He's tired. But deep down, she knows the difference between absence and withdrawal. Absence is circumstance. Withdrawal is choice. And choice means he chose away from her. The confusion grows into something darker. Obsession begins where certainty ends. She starts to review the history. What did she say? What did she do? Was it the last conversation? Was it the way she laughed? She replays moments looking for the fracture point, and in that replay, something shifts. She forgets the boring kindness. She forgets the predictable affection. She begins to romanticize the distance. Your silence becomes more interesting than your presence ever was. Because comfort does not demand interpretation, cruelty does. There is a scream inside her. It is the insecurity that rises when she is not being constantly validated. Most men rush to silence that scream with reassurance, affection, proof of love. But you do not rush. You let the scream grow louder. And as it grows, it consumes her. She lies awake at 3 a.m. wondering if you ever think of her. She checks your social media looking for signs of life. She is no longer judging your worth. She is drowning in doubt about her own. The man who can walk away without a word becomes something more than human in her eyes. He becomes mythic, not because he is cruel, but because he is complete. He does not need her to feel whole. He does not need her validation to sleep at night. And that completeness, that terrifying self-sufficiency, commands respect in a way that devotion never could. Here is the psychological pivot you must understand. She does not chase you to get you back. She chases you to prove she still exists. Your attention was her mirror. Your absence has shattered it. And now she is scrambling to find her reflection in the broken shards. She reaches for you not out of love, but out of existential terror. Because if you do not see her, if you do not want her, if you do not burn for her, then who is she? The void you created becomes her proving ground, and she will enter it again and again, desperate to prove she still exists in your world, because if she doesn't exist there, she is not sure she exists at all. She will send messages designed to provoke a response. She will ask questions that demand answers. She will manufacture crises, emergencies, moments where a normal man would break his silence. She is fishing. She is testing the depth of your withdrawal, and every non-response confirms the truth she cannot face. You are gone. Your world does not revolve around her. She was never the center she believed herself to be, but do not expect her to submit immediately. The storm comes before the surrender, and the storm will be vicious. She will test the frame. She will rage against your silence. She will accuse you of being cold, of being emotionally unavailable, of being incapable of love. She will try to make you jealous, mentioning other men, flaunting attention, parading the validation she is getting elsewhere. This is not a sign of weakness. This is her last stand, the final flare of resistance before the old pattern dies. This is where 90% of men fail. They see her rage and think they have broken her. They think one more apology will fix it. They think explaining themselves will restore peace. It will not. It will erase everything you've built. Because the moment you speak to soothe her, you prove you can be moved, and what can be moved is not worth worshiping. You must become the mountain, not the storm. She is the chaos. She is the wind and the rain and the lightning, but you are the rock that does not shift. You absorb her fury without flinching. You watch her rage without responding. You let the storm exhaust itself against your stillness. And when the clouds clear, when the thunder fades, she will look up at the mountain that did not crumble, and she will kneel. Not because you asked, because you didn't, because you stood unmoved while she raged. She secretly wants her tests to fail. She craves a man she cannot break. Every accusation is a prayer that you will remain unmoved. Every tear is a test of your foundation. If you fold, if you rush to comfort her, if you apologize for your silence to restore the peace, you prove that you are not the mountain. The danger of folding cannot be overstated. One apology, one explanation, one moment of weakness, and you are back to furniture. All the mystery dissolves, all the power evaporates. She will smile and say she forgives you, but inside, she has already moved on. The respect you were building has collapsed, and you will spend months trying to rebuild what a single apology destroyed. The man who folds dies in her eyes, and she will never resurrect him. Watch the men around you. They crumble at the first sign of her displeasure. They rush to explain, to justify, to prove they are not the villain she paints them to be. They think they are saving the relationship. They are ending it. Because the moment they speak to soothe her, they reveal their need, and need, once visible, destroys attraction faster than any cruelty. But if you remain unmoved, if you let the storm pass without bending, if you watch her exhaust herself and still say nothing, she does not ask for forgiveness. She asks for permission. Permission to worship, permission to kneel, permission to earn back what she lost. The aftermath of the storm reveals the true hierarchy. She cannot move you. Her tears do not shake your foundation. Her accusations do not pierce your silence. The pedestal crumbles. You placed her on it once with your attention, your devotion, your constant circling. But silence takes her down. And when she looks up from the ground, she sees you standing where she used to be. You are now the rare resource. You are now the prize to be earned. You are now the man she must chase to deserve. Scarcity creates worth. The man who is always available is valued like water, essential but invisible. The man who withdraws is valued like gold, precious because he cannot be easily obtained. You were water, now you are gold. And she will sacrifice everything, her pride, her standards, her dignity, just for the chance to touch you. Some will call this cruelty. They will say you are manipulating her, playing games, withholding love as punishment, but it is not cruel to have standards. It is not cruel to refuse to perform. It is not cruel to demand respect before offering affection. This is not cruelty. This is survival. And survival does not explain itself. And here is the final realization she will reach, though she may never speak it aloud. She never loved the you that chased. She never respected the you that explained. She never valued the you that was always there. She loves the you that is out of reach. She respects the you that does not bend. She values the you that walks away without looking back. And she will spend the rest of her life haunted by the man who loved her completely but refused to beg. This is the truth that rewrites everything you were taught. The man who tries hardest loses. The man who cares most is forgotten. The man who gives everything receives nothing. The man who holds back, who keeps one room locked, who maintains a territory of self she can never enter. That is the man who lives in her memory forever. Not because he was good, because he was unreachable. And the unreachable is always sacred, even when it destroys her. So who must you become? Not the man she wants, the man she cannot have. You must transform from the beggar to the ghost. The beggar asks for love, the ghost offers none. The beggar explains himself, the ghost remains silent. The beggar orbits her beauty, the ghost has his own gravity. The beggar flinches at her storms. The ghost stands unmoved while they rage around him. The beggar dies. The ghost lives forever. Are you ready to be the villain in her story, to be the hero in your own? Because that is what this requires. She will paint you in shadows. She will call you cold, distant, cruel. She will tell her friends you were incapable of love, and you will not defend yourself. You will not explain. You will not correct her narrative. Because the man who defends his reputation has already lost it. Your sovereignty does not require her approval. The ultimate goal is not to get her back. It was never about her. The ultimate goal is to retrieve your own soul from her altar. You placed it there when you worshipped her. Now you walk back into that temple, past the candles you lit for her, and take back what was always yours. She kept it warm while you were gone. Now it is time to reclaim it. You have given enough. You have explained enough. You have chased long enough. The time has come to reclaim the parts of yourself you scattered at her feet. She noticed. She stepped over them. Now you gather them in silence, piece by piece, until you are whole again. Not for her, for you. A man who is complete within himself does not chase. He is chased, and the ones worth chasing will run. The man who walks away and never looks back becomes immortal in her memory. Not because he was kind, not because he was good, but because he was untouchable. He was the one she could not solve, could not bend, could not keep, and that mystery will live in her mind long after every devoted man has faded into forgetting. So here is your final command. Stop performing. Stop explaining. Stop orbiting. Stop waiting for her to see your worth. Your worth is not something she can validate. It exists independent of her gaze. Start existing. Start filling your life with purpose that has nothing to do with her approval. Start building a kingdom that does not need a queen to be complete. Embrace the silence, not as a tactic, not as a game, but as the natural expression of a man too full to leak, too sovereign to beg, too complete to chase. She is watching. She is waiting. She is wondering when you will speak. Let her wonder. Let the silence stretch like a desert she must cross to reach you. Let the silence do what words never could. And when she finally kneels, not if, but when, you will not need to say a thing, because the man who says nothing says everything. Everything. To a woman who has spent her life being chased is the only thing worth following.